So this is graphing in standard form, something you've already learned, but it's a good review. If you want to take out your notes, the ones that have the 8 steps, feel free to do that. But remember, you cannot use that on a quiz or on a test. Okay, so the first thing we do is let's make a prediction. This particular parabola is going to open upward because the A in front is positive. I can see A is 1, B is 5, and C is -4 for the future. What is the vertex? So I can do these in any order. I'm going to follow the order that's on the list of steps for graphing in standard form. So the very first one after I do a prediction of which way the parabola will open will be to identify the line of symmetry, also known as the equation of the axis, is the line of symmetry, or they may refer to it as axis symmetry. So that is x equals -b over 2a. So I'm going to substitute in a 5 for the b and a 1 for the a, giving you -5 halves. If you don't know what half of 5 is, use a calculator and determine. As a decimal, this is equivalent to -2.5. -2.5. So I come over to my graph, I find here's -2, so -2.5 is right in between. And I'm done with the axis of symmetry. I'd like you to have a way to determine whether you're understanding this or not. So if you could listen closely as we go through each of these, and I know you're following along with me even though you don't have this exact same form, put a check mark next to it if you feel confident, like you don't need to review that step. Remember, your axis of symmetry, also known as your line of symmetry, always contains a vertex. And the vertex will have the exact same x value as that line of symmetry. How do you determine the y coordinates? Grab your calculator. Let's do the hard work for you. In this equation up above, wherever I see an x, I'm going to substitute in -2.5. Please follow along and don't get ahead too much, because a lot of students made a mistake with parentheses. We're going to start off with the parentheses, -2.5 and parentheses squared. I'm taking this equation, I'm substituting in a -2.5 to get a y answer. Plus 5 times the quantity -2.5, and parentheses subtract 4. It is a subtract 4, not a -4. Subtract 4, not a -4. Okay? Then press enter. And for answer, you should have an answer of -10.25. I'm going to estimate right here. How do you determine the x-intercepts of the graph? How do you determine the x-intercepts of the graph? So do you know two numbers that multiply to equal -4? So let's figure out what combinations multiply to equal -4. So these combinations multiply to equal -4, but they have to combine to equal +5. None of these combine to equal +5. That means this is not factorable. So we need to use the quadratic formula. I'm going to come off to the side to do that. X equals -b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac divided by 2 times a. -4 times 1 times -4 is +16, and 16 plus 25 is 41. Now the square root of 41, it's not a perfect square, and there is not a perfect square that divides into it that can help simplify. That can help simplify it, okay? So if somebody said, what are the exact x-intercepts? -5 plus radical 41 over 2, and -5 minus radical 41 over 2. That probably means nothing to you. To me, I can't determine exactly what this value is, but this is the exact answer. Grab your calculator. We're now going to estimate what it is so we can graph it. -5 plus the square root of 41. Press enter and divide by 2. Rounded to the nearest tenth is 0.7. So let's come over here and let's graph 0.7. Bless you. Then I'm going to do the same thing, but this time instead of adding, I'm going to subtract. -5 subtract the square root of 41 divided by 2, -5.7. We can determine the y-intercept by looking up here. The number that does not contain the variable, which happens to be -4 in this problem, so 0, -4. And then the nice thing about parabolas is they're symmetrical. We get to cheat. From this point to the axis of symmetry is 1, 2, 2.5 away. So I'm going to go 2.5 in the opposite direction, which puts me at an x value of -5. Connecting your points. The range, there's no limit how far it goes to the left or to the right, leaving a domain of -infinity to positive. That's your domain. Your range, again, going from minimum to maximum. The minimum y value is -10.25. No limit how high it goes. We cannot touch a positive infinity, but -10.25 is part of the graph, so we keep it in brackets. The minimum value occurs right here. The minimum value is y equals -10.25. If you were going to take a bicycle and start here and end here, you'd say you're going downhill, 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 so decreasing. Then at this point you're neutral, and then you begin to go uphill, so you are increasing. As a reminder, increasing and decreasing intervals only use parentheses. Are you writing this down, sir? So I use parentheses here. Decreasing, and we only discussed this, or sorry, we only identify in terms of x values. So it comes from the far left. Decreasing is -infinity, and it continues to decrease until you hit an x value of -2.5. It increases from -2.5 and continues to increase as it goes to the right to positive infinity. All right, and behavior. In both situations, as you go to the left and as you go to the right, your function is headed upward.